Hey, what's up? Doug Cunnington here from Niche Site Project. In this interview, I talked to Brett, who is a 22-year-old college senior, and he has a niche site that's making between $500 and $750 per month. It's awesome because Brett contacted me about a few months ago, said he was going to try and implement the keyword golden ratio, and he was going to try and publish a whole bunch of articles without doing much link building. Well, fast forward a few months and he's done that. And in fact, it's super impressive because, like I said, he's in college. So this interview is really interesting if you want to be inspired, especially if you are not sure if this stuff works. Brett is a great example. And we go into a lot of details, a little bit of his history with websites and stuff like that. It's interesting to note that he had his first site when he was like 16 years old. So he has a few years under his belt, but he really sort of hit his stride in the last few months. So without further ado, let's go to the interview right now. Hey, what's up? Doug Cunnington here from Niche Site Project. This is a super interesting interview because I don't even know where it's going to go. So I'm sitting with Brett right now. Brett, how are you today?
I'm doing great. How are you?
Doing pretty well. It's snowing right now. It snowed like 3 inches or so today. And I'm kind of locked inside the house. I mean, I could drive around, but I'm just like, I don't want to go out there. It's like wet, nasty snow. So, by the way, where are you located?
I am currently in Greensboro, North Carolina.
Nice. Got some good barbecue around there, pulled pork and
Yep,
stuff, right?
definitely.
I missed that up here in Montana. So here's the deal with this interview, everyone. And I guess, Brett, I'm going to bring you in on this because Brett contacted me months ago. We exchanged a couple emails. He said he was going to like try and work on his niche site. Fast forward several months, he said, I've done that. I've made a lot of progress. I've published a lot of stuff. And are you actually making money right now?
I am. I'm making between 500 to 750 a month from the site.
Super cool. So congratulations, by the way. That's like the top 0.5%. Like most people never even start a site, even after they like know that they can. And then even fewer people continue iterating on. So congratulations. Like
Thank
that's
you.
really impressive. And anyway, so I really don't know much about Brett at all other than we exchanged a few emails. So now I know you're from or you're in South Carolina. So what are you doing there? Can you tell me like what you do for your job? How did you
Yeah.
find niche sites? So I'll just turn it over
Um,
to you for the intro.
yeah. So I'm 22 years old, currently a senior in college, and going to finish up this year. And I originally got into niche sites and affiliate marketing probably 6 years ago, maybe through micro niche sites, kind of super small sites, and kind of been on and off since then. Had a little success in the beginning and then kind of got lost along the way.
Gotcha, gotcha. And so you said 6 years ago?
Yeah, probably around then.
Gotcha. And then did you like launch a site back? If I did the math right, you were like 16 or so. So did you actually launch a site back then? What
Yeah,
happened with it?
so I launched, well, my very first site I actually purchased off Black Hat World. I bought it for like $49 or something like that. It was one of those pre-built sites.
Yeah.
And I bought that and I actually paid, I don't know, $50 or so for backlinks. Actually ranked pretty high and made a couple $100.
Nice.
Eventually it got penalized, but it's
Yeah.
kind of the beginning. And then from there, I've launched a few sites, had a little success, and then I don't know, over the past 5 years, I've probably made 20 sites or so.
Okay. Cool, cool. It's always interesting talking to people when they are making some money on the site, especially, 5 to 700. That's a really good spot. That's probably worth like, you probably priced it out. You probably have a better idea, but that's probably worth like 12, 18,000, depending
Yeah.
on a couple factors. So pretty impressive.
hmm
But like most of the time, if I talk to someone who has a site like that, usually they've like launched several, maybe not 20, but like they've launched several along the way. It's crazy. You got started when you were 16. It blows my mind. I was like cutting grass and like washing cars at that point in time. So things are shifting a little bit. So cool. So what are you studying in school? What school do you go to there?
I go to the University of North Carolina at Greensboro. and I'm a business administration major.
Got it. I guess I'm curious, like, how you started following me. Like, what did you implement? Because I know you contacted me a while back. Just, I guess, bring people up to speed
Yeah.
with what you've done over the past, say, 8 months or so.
hmm So the main thing that stuck out to me about you was the adding a bunch of content and not focusing on backlinks as much, but more about finding low competition keywords to go after. So
Cool.
for this site, I think I messaged you in the beginning of summer, somewhere in spring, late spring,
Right.
and my original plan was to add 100 or so articles based on low competition keywords and put them all onto this site and just see how it would improve traffic and revenue. And since then, I think I've added about 85 articles,
Cool.
and I mean, I've seen great results so far.
Awesome. And through the, I guess, through that period of time, did you do any backlinking or anything?
I had a few backlinks before then. I probably had 5 guest posts or so.
Okay.
And in that period, I probably got 5 to 10 more, but not a huge amount.
Okay. Cool. So it's like under 20 total, and your main focus was content for sure. Like 85 articles is a lot to orchestrate. I expect you, did you write them yourself or did you hire someone?
I outsourced 95% of them.
Okay. Yeah, that's the way to go. I mean, at that volume, it's like an insurmountable thing. I mean, that's kind of, unless you're a writer,
Yeah.
then it's really hard to do. So cool. Very cool. And how old is the site right now?
The site is a little over 1 year old.
Okay, cool. And then when you first started it, like what was your approach? Obviously, it wasn't like the content angle like you shifted to. So how did you approach like keywords and stuff like that, building out the site?
My main focus then was really on putting out like 3 or 4 thousand word articles and just being the best in my market, because I thought there was a pretty big gap and there wasn't very much information in this market. So I just thought if I put out a few of these big posts, I'll probably be ranking pretty high since it's the best content.
Right. And then did that work?
It took a little bit. I kind of got discouraged at the beginning because I put out the content and then it didn't immediately rank. But
Right.
3 months later, it started to rank. So,
Okay. And when you say rank, did it rank like in the top, or where did it rank?
so I guess in the first month or so, it's probably 40 or 50 maybe. And then fast forward 3 months and it was probably top 10 or pretty close to top 10.
Gotcha. And then has it reached like number one, or is it still like in the top 10 or whatever?
So most of them now are in top 3 or top 5.
Okay. And that's just with the, under 20 backlinks generally.
Mhm.
Okay. Cool.
Yep.
Nice. Well, like I said, congratulations. That's pretty impressive overall. And I can probably not in this interview, but in another interview, you sent me some stats over. So
Yeah.
I'll share those stats, at least like where they were at the time. But it'll be interesting to like keep, track of like the trajectory. I'm particularly interested in the retail season. So I'll tell you a secret that I don't talk about too often. Don't tell anyone. Okay, so the keyword golden ratio, by the way, everyone, that is sort of the root of what Brett has been working on, what I've like talked about for a couple years now. Like the keyword golden ratio is a way to like publish content without having to build backlinks. Backlinks will help, but you generally don't have to build backlinks and you'll start getting some traction. The thing with the keyword golden ratio is you publish a lot of content and like individual users are going to your site, they're buying something at Amazon and they're putting other stuff in their cart. Let's say one person is shopping for one particular item which you review. They buy that item and they buy 8 other things, for example. The interesting thing, right? I spend so much time trying to convince people that it works that I don't even get into any of the advanced stuff. Like more savvy people eventually ask the questions. But instead of like revenue going up like 2 or 3 times over the retail season, it goes up by like 8 or 10 times because there's more individual customers, right? And each of those individual customers are doing their holiday shopping. They're all buying 8 items. So instead of like 3 individual customers, you have like 10. and they're all buying 8 items. So the math works out crazy. And I like hypothesized this a couple years ago. And sure enough, when the retail season hit, like my revenue went up by like way more than I expected. So fingers crossed that it'll hold up for me, that it'll hold up for you, because instead of making, 500 to 700, it could be like 4,000. You're like, wow, like that came out of nowhere. So you'll have to let me know. I'm really curious. Now, I talked a lot. I'm going to shut up. You had some questions for me, and I think it'll be useful because a lot of people are sort of at a stage where maybe they added a lot of content, they have a little revenue, and it's kind of like, all right, like 2.0, like where are you aiming for now? So I'll turn it over to you and you ask me questions.
So my first question really relates to finding Amazon keywords, because when you're interested in adding all this content, of course, it's going to get harder and harder to find these keywords that are low competition.
I go to Google and I'll like look for like the main term. I'll use like permanent marker. I've just bought some new permanent markers here. I'll say like best permanent marker, and then I'll see what comes up in like the auto suggest. You probably heard this before from me, but the auto suggest, and then once you find like a couple terms, you can keep looking at the also related searches down at the bottom. So those are great in conjunction with Keywords Everywhere, the Chrome extension, the free Chrome extension. You could like see the search volume there. So that's really helpful. With that, you could find like tons and tons of different keywords. Now, the couple paid tool options that you can go after, you can use SEMrush, which is a great sort of keyword research tool. It's an SEO marketing, search engine marketing suite. And then Ahrefs provides really similar information. They have great backlinks as far as their database goes. SEMrush has kind of a poor database of backlinks, but that's not their thing. So either one of those tools could be good to go to, say, your top 10 competitors, like look at all of their keywords, like download the CSVs, combine everything, and then start filtering in like smart ways. So I could tell you some options that I usually do that can get you in the right direction, but like the best stuff is going to be things that you figure out on your own based on what I'm telling you. So I usually look for longer phrases, so like 4 words or more. I'll look for anything that contains best, because that's a buyer's type keyword. I'll look for verses, right? Product X versus product Y. So you can look for anything with verses. Those tend to convert really well because it's someone like far down the sales funnel at that point. They know the two products are comparing. And I mean, I don't have the math in front of me, but if you have like 5 or 6 products that you could compare to each other, that's like many, like several articles that you could write. Not all of them are going to be like perfect as far as like keyword volumes and the KGR. If you could find it as an auto suggest, you should probably publish it, because that means at least like one person's looking for it. And then further with those two things, you're going to have like more keywords than you'll be able to publish anyway, just because SEMrush and Ahrefs have so much data. So as far as finding keywords, that's sort of like the deeper dive that you can go into.
Perfect. And then my second question is just general internal linking for large sites. Because my site has 125 posts or so. Once it gets bigger and bigger, I think internal linking gets pretty important.
Right. So I guess like what struggle do you have with it right now?
So, I mean, my basic strategy has just been, I have can't remember what it's called, but one of those plugins that just shares related posts. And I also try to include at least 1 or 2 or 3 links to somehow related articles on my site.
Okay. I think both of those are probably good. I don't go the plugin route. I don't know if this is true, but I have a feeling that Google doesn't like value those as much as the in-content links. So it may be sort of like something that I think because of like what I know about backlinks and stuff like that. So I don't know if it's true, but I don't use one of those type plugins. I do the, like in content, like in the body of the post, I'll do links to other articles. It's great if they're related, but I even link to other stuff that's not really related. It's an article about the marker, but maybe I'll link to notebooks or something like that. So it's kind of related, but not really. I mean, it's the same kind of user that would be interested in it, but
Yeah.
it's not really tied to it. And as far as like implementing it or something like that, like there's no real shortcut, right? Like the way I do it is I get every single URL on my site, and I've done this a couple times, every single URL on my site, and then you just make sure that there's a link. I mean, I hire someone to do it, right? So it's
Yeah.
basically like web research and like being able to use WordPress, but they go in and they check to see like external links. They
Mhm.
actually log them and document where they are. There are tools that could probably do this for you like faster, but
Uh-huh.
at the point where like I see like a certain post doesn't have outbound links to, internal links to my site, right? Then I'll want to have some added, and then vice versa. I want that many links coming in. So it is a purely manual process. I don't know a way to like do it automatically because you have to
Mhm.
put in the anchor text too, right? Every time you put a link in, like you're impacting the anchor text, and that's important too. As far as like a strategy, just like slow and methodical. If you look at like the whole thing that you have to do, it's
Mhm.
overwhelming. But if you're just like, hey, I just need to look at one post today, two posts today, do them
Mhm.
then. And this is a remarkable thing. Like when I actually interlinked my site, like everything moved up a little bit. It creates a really good passing link juice through the site, is what people like to say. So does that help?
Definitely. I guess piggybacking off that, do you have any strategy for anchor text when you're doing internal linking, or is it just kind of anything that's relevant or makes sense?
Yeah, really anything that's relevant and makes sense. I know it can be more of a science, and there are, specific ratios that you want to stay in and all that stuff.
Uh,
But usually, because I don't want I mean, these are like writers and editors who are doing this work for me. So they're not SEO experts, and I don't actually want them to be SEO experts because like I don't know where they learned their chops or anything like that. So these are just like people that can communicate well and they can read and write well, which is all I need. So I just tell them, make it a long phrase, like a full sentence, like
yeah.
it's usually going to be keyword rich.
Mhm.
Maybe you have the title in there, but not always. So it's kind of just like, hey, whatever makes sense, team, you can do that. So that's how I manage it.
Okay. Perfect. And another question is, do you use any other affiliate programs other than Amazon?
No. And then the caveat, like on my sites where the main goal is Amazon, I don't. There
Mhm.
is one site where it's like in another niche, and I have some like ClickBank products. Some are physical products, some are info products, but it's in like another area. I'm not as interested in that. It doesn't bring in a lot of money. There's not as much traffic there. It's like $100 a month. So I usually don't talk about it, but on the Amazon site, like the goal is Amazon like sales. So I only focus on that point. As far as like share a sale or commission junction or anything like that, you can get like higher commission rates potentially, but oftentimes you're not going to sell as many items. The
Yeah.
stuff I was talking about before, like if someone is picking like one item and they buy at commission junction, you obviously only get credit on that one. You don't get credit for everything in their cart that they're buying from Amazon. So it's a trade off. And I'm sure for certain niches where products aren't offered, well, you're better off going with something else. Or if there's an info product that fits, you could do that. But I haven't messed with it, and I have low interest in it.
What is your favorite type of backlink, whether it's the easiest or what you found the most effective for these white hat type sites?
Yeah, I think probably just like the guest post
Hmm.
angle, just because that is the most straightforward. It seems to have positive impact. It may be a little slower than other types of links, but you can do those in a way that is really hard for your competitors to emulate and copy. And
Yeah.
that's what I'm going for. I don't want someone to be able to just go to my site, check out my backlinks, and then pay to get the same links that I have because they can see that all they have to do is like offer money and then they can get it. So through building relationships and making it like hard to copy and hard to recreate, it sort of builds a moat, hopefully, around the competition there, or around my site from the competition rather, to
Yeah.
stick with the moat metaphor.
And then I guess this kind of relates to interlinking. Is there such thing as too much content?
Probably, but I think the risk is like keyword cannibalization.
Mm-hmm.
And for the people that aren't familiar, it's like if you have two posts on your site and they're like really similar,
Yeah.
Google is ranking the wrong one for what you want to rank, and like basically you're cannibalizing your own results and
Yeah.
stuff like that. And with the keyword golden ratio, it's like likely to happen because things are so closely related. And it's one of the biggest, people are really afraid. They're afraid of putting too much content, having thin content, and they just don't do anything, right? You didn't do that. You published stuff. You tried it and you see what happens. And sometimes something ranks for what you didn't intend to. And then that's what I do. I just publish everything and then I see what Google reacts to, because I could do something with data, right? I can do something with the results and I can adjust. But the people that are scared to even try to publish something, or they're afraid that Google isn't going to like it, well, then they have no data, and then either they don't do anything or they're publishing stuff that's just not going to rank the same. What I usually do is combine the post and then 301 redirect the one that I moved, right? So slightly technical, kind of a pain in the butt, but I don't do it that often because frankly, I don't check that often. As far as too much content, like that would be the risk. Otherwise, I would say like for these types of sites, you could publish a whole lot of stuff and you're going to have a whole lot of traffic. It's probably going to be fine. And do you have like a specific example where like maybe I just didn't mention it?
I think you covered it pretty well. But so if you had a site so my site has 125 or so posts, and if I potentially had enough keywords to go 1,000 posts in the next year or two,
right,
and they weren't too closely related, so you'd recommend just going after it?
Yes, in general.
Mm-hmm.
However, I will tell you, I just published like over 200 articles in the last like 2 months or so. And it cost $6,000-ish, maybe a little bit more. So it was a little pricey. Like the site's making good money. I've just reinvested. So it wasn't like out of pocket, reinvested it.
Yeah.
And when I took a step back, I realized that it was easier for me to spawn up a content team because I had pieces in place already. So I did that because it was easier. The thing is, if I would have spent $6,000 on white hat outreach and link building activities, I maybe could have gotten like 50 or 70 guest posts. It would have taken more time from me because I would have to train the team and stuff. That's a lot of posts that I could have gotten. Maybe it would have taken a little bit longer and stuff like that. But I mean, links can make a huge difference, especially let's just pick a hypothetical example without a specific keywords or a specific keyword. If I would have gotten like 20 links to a specific post that was say ranking number 3 and it has 8,000 searches per month, that one page alone could be worth like 10K a month. So you have to look at like the cost, the best ROI. And as I took a step back, I was like, I publish so much content. I have been publishing a lot of content, but I haven't been doing the link building part, which is important when you look at content that is not KGR compliant. So now I'm like, okay, I need to dedicate resources to link building, and potentially like instead of adding more content, Brett, like you maybe would want to improve content that's doing well. Maybe something's ranking number 2, you only have 1,000 words. What would happen if you made that 4,000 words long? Maybe you get like tons of long tails that you didn't even know were out there. And then, even if you don't move up to number 1, you could like improve the traffic to that page by a lot. So instead of publishing new stuff, maybe you just like double down on what you already have.
That being said, I don't know if you have a specific answer for this or if it depends on the site itself. Have you noticed between link building and content if one has a better ROI?
I think there's too many factors.
Yeah.
There's too many factors. So I know like for Project Go White Hat, if people aren't familiar, this was a site that I worked on with my friend Rob. And we took it from like a gray hat site with private blog network links. And then we got a bunch of white hat links to replace them. So this particular site, I think it only had like 40 5 pages when I started working on it with Rob. We added more, right? We added KGR content. We beefed up the content. It was a good ROI, but also it was a small site, like comparatively speaking. It was pulling in like 10K a month. The thing is, Rob dedicated his resources to the link building portion of it and the private blog networks. I don't know his like upfront cost on that, but I mean, he didn't have that many links going to the site, but it was pulling in, 5 figures a month. So looking at that, I expect there's some blend that's actually like best. I think if you just did content, you're going to have some trouble. And if you just did links, you'll have a little trouble. But a lot of times, and that, Project Go White Hat site was like sort of proof of it. The content was not great. It was passable at best. We had like powerful links, not many, but we had powerful links from those private blog networks before we converted them over. And that like did pretty well. If you have a site, I see more sites with a lot of content with no links that don't do anything. So my hunch is links are probably like, they're a little bit harder. They're a little more expensive to do. You can make more mistakes with it. So I have a feeling like there may be a slightly better ROI on links.
Okay.
But there's too many factors. Like if you put the links to the wrong place, like I've seen this too, just talking to someone, I can't mention who it is, but I was talking to someone recently. They had like 50 links to their site, which is good, but they were only making like $100 a month or so, which is not that great for that many links and the amount of content that was on that site. And it was because like the way the links were created, the way they were done, these were white hat links too, but just the way everything played out, like it wasn't making rankings, which is sad because like that's a lot of links. You should be able to like just about rank for anything with like 50 pure white hat links. So cool. Any other questions that you could think of here?
I guess kind of unrelated question. In the future of affiliate sites, do you think we're going to see less and less, I don't know, small sites, 10, 15 page sites compared to 100 page sites?
Probably. I feel like people are shifting that way, or sites are shifting that way just generally because, I mean, I think when affiliate marketers were doing like more gray hat stuff, sites tended to like get penalized more often. There was more churn. I feel like there's a group of people that are building sites now that are doing stuff that like, cements them in. They're trying not to break the rules like myself and stay there and reinvest to sort of like firmly plant the site in place and thinking brands and media companies, not just affiliate marketers. So I think like with that in place, yes. However, there are so many new products and like long tail keywords and, keyword golden ratio ideas out there that like you could just keep going or keep going and finding keywords and have like smaller sites that like start getting traction. And then from there, of course, you could like grow the site a little more. Now, the other part of it is, I mean, things are going to shift, right? So like affiliate marketing will shift and maybe there's a lot more video out there, right? Like maybe there's like a whole like group of people, a whole set of, I guess, YouTube type affiliate sites where it's like based on a YouTube channel. And I mean, I know people they push those products on or push products. For example, like if it's I watch a lot of like how to do YouTube channel stuff. So they talk about cameras and stuff and they're like recommending products. I'm sure they're doing really well. Those are high end items. Like I'll purchase through those links because, they have good reviews. So I see like a shift like sort of like that, but I think all the skills will stay the same. I sort of like I talked about what you asked, but I also gave like more stuff too. So cool. All right. So Brett, question for you. I guess what are your goals? You're a senior now. You're going to graduate soon. Are you looking to go into the corporate world? Are you going to keep stuff on the side? Do you have any idea like where you're leaning right now?
I mean, the ultimate goal would definitely be to make a full-time income from affiliate sites. I know that graduating in 6 months might not be possible currently, but eventually down the road, I think I'd like to be doing affiliate marketing full time.
Cool. Cool. Well, it's totally possible. A lot can
Hmm.
happen in a few months, but the slight risk with the affiliate sites is like you don't control the traffic, you don't control the program, so
Hmm.
it's a little dicey. However, you probably have like fewer responsibilities now
Yeah,
than you will in a few years. So if you're gonna
yeah,
if you're gonna pause on the corporate stuff, now would be the time. But it is, I'm sure there's like good recruiting stuff happening around there, but
yeah.
I don't know. And I talked to Matt Diggity the other day for an interview, and he did like a corporate job for like 9 years. I
Yeah.
I did one for like 10, and it
Mhm.
sucked. But I think like the the stuff that I learned in there, the politics, all the stuff that we had to deal with,
Yeah.
we learned a lot through it, and it really translated well. But both he and I had sort of a tech background and like an
Mhm.
engineering background. So, sort of the project management, the deliverables, like all the sort of structure stuff was good. The politics were bad. We hated a lot of it. But yeah, it's just interesting because like I learned so much, and it would have been cool to be doing this sooner, but I think I had to go through all of it, put everything together. So, that probably doesn't help you. It probably confuses you more, but just wanted to throw that in.
Well, thanks. Thanks for the
Sure,
tips.
sure. Well, it was great catching up. Let's check in a few months, see where you're at in
Mhm.
like January, something like that. So, thanks a lot, Brett. Do you want people to follow you anywhere or not follow you anywhere or whatever? Totally up to you.
I have a blog called Passive Niches, but it hasn't been updated in a little while, so I have to get back on that. I should passiveniches.com.
Okay, cool. We could edit this to put the right thing. So, how about do you want people to follow you on Facebook or no?
Facebook is fun.
Okay. So yeah, maybe people can follow you on Facebook, and that'll be like the place where, if they want to connect with you or something like that.
Yeah,
In fact, don't connect with me, connect with Brett because I try and stay out of Facebook. But
yeah.
all right, thanks again. And
Thank you.
we'll talk soon. See ya.
Yeah.
I want to thank Brett for sharing his knowledge and experience with niche sites. Really appreciate him taking the time out of his day. And after we finished the interview, Brett mentioned to me that like his site was like penalized for a bit. So there's another video on that. So if you're interested in hearing about a thin content penalty and how to get out of it, check out the next video that there should be a card or some sort of link coming up in a second, and I'll link it below as well. So thanks again. If you're new to the channel, if you're new to niche sites, please consider subscribing. Again, I'm Doug Cunnington from Niche Site Project, and we'll see you around. Thanks.